Hey, this is Attorney Walter Hnot, Disability Resolution PA. Hope all is well. One of the big things that we're going to be going through tonight is essentially how to do a compromise settlement with the Social Security Administration, but also we're going to be going through what do they look for that will be acceptable. Now, I'm going to be very straightforward with you. Some disabled individuals that fall into this situation where the SSA will file suit against them have this really puffed up ego, and some of them have a completely deflated ego. There's very few people that are in the middle. The deflated ego people are just like, oh no, what am I going to do? These super inflated ego are like, I'm going to tell that judge and da 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 da. The super inflated ego people do very badly in this situation. It happens, you know what I mean? They're people who essentially like think of and that's the thing. Like, I just a quick side note in the disabled community. There's a percentage, and they're usually certain age male veterans, or they're basically certain age females or males that are SSDIers. And there's some SSIers as well that have this like hyper puffed, hyped existence. And I get it. I think it's because they feel like if they don't promote and push their, like the importance of it, that they will just, like I feel like they're doing it as a defense mechanism. But at the same time, it doesn't serve them well, because when they go in front of a judge and they like do that ego thing, man, the judge slams them, and it's not good. It's not a good thing. Like, just sometimes like I'll get a call from a disabled person and be like, well, you're going to have to do this for me. And I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry. Who are you? And then it's not a client. It's just somebody, you know what I mean? And they're like, you got to do that. I'm just like, wait a minute. I didn't hear the country that you're the prince of. Can you just walk me through that? Like, which continent is the country? Can you just draw me a map? Like, just show me where specifically you are, the palace you live in. Just help me out with. And I get upset at this point because there's a problem. And the problem is that the ego keeps that person from actually getting what they want. Now, once you break through that ego that they have, then you can get them to actually learn and achieve, know how to talk to a judge, know how to go ahead and make the arguments, think through it. It's not all about they must understand and they must decide in my favor. You have to get through that. You know what I mean? Like there's a chunk of people out there that just, especially in the disabled community, that just have that. So you got to like break through it to get them to begin preparing to successfully approach a judge. And that's the thing, like the closest we have to a demigod in, the things that we do as Americans would be a judge. A lot of you guys are like, oh, well, maybe it's a police officer. No. Maybe it's a sheriff. No. Maybe it's a federal agent. Nope. No, silly goose. Maybe it's a prison guard. That's closer. That is closer. No, it's a judge. The judge will literally order what happens to your life. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's like if you go into a church, a synagogue, if you go into like, a mosque, whatever, that's one thing. But if you go into a courtroom, that is a very different structural thing. So we're going to be going through how you can successfully go ahead and basically compromise a settlement or suspension or termination of collection when the SSA is trying to take money from you. Specifically, we're going to start with section 408.950. Will we accept a compromise settlement of an overpayment debt or suspend or terminate collection of an overpayment? This is straight from the statutes that they use, okay? General, if we find that you do not, or your estate does not have the present or future ability to pay the full amount of the overpayment within a reasonable time, right? 60 months is usually what they look at, or the cost of collection is likely to exceed the amount of recovery, we may take any of the following actions as appropriate. 1, we may accept a compromise settlement payment of less than the full amount of the overpayment to discharge the entire overpayment debt. So here's where they can like reduce how much they're actually trying to take from you, okay? 2, we may suspend our efforts to collect the overpayment. We may terminate our efforts to collect the overpayment. And those are like your 3 options, right? So you got, suspend efforts, they can come back to it, terminate efforts, they're not going to come back to you, or accept a compromise settlement. B, rules we apply. In deciding whether to take any of the actions described in paragraph A of this section, we will apply the rules of 404.15b. And of this chapter, so basically we'll go through those in another video. I didn't print out the thing for that. So C, effect of compromise, suspension or termination. So remember, compromise, you got to still pay some money. Suspension, they're going away, but they might come back. Termination, they're not going to try and collect from you in the future. When we suspend or terminate collection of the overpayment debt, we may take collection action in the future in accordance with provisions of the Social Security Act, other laws. I guess they're saying even if it's a termination, they might come back. But I've never seen that before. Whenever they terminate, I've never seen them come back. And the standards set forth in 31 CFR chapter, a compromise settlement satisfies the obligation to repay the overpayment if you or your estate comply with the terms of the settlement. Failure to make the payment in the manner and within the time that we require in the settlement will result in reinstatement of our claim for the full amount of the overpayment less any amounts paid. So in other words, you work out a settlement, a monthly payment gig. Then if you breach it, they're going to come right back and say you owe us money. If you don't breach it and you continue to do it, then you should be okay. Now, over here, SI 02220.030 SSI overpayment compromise settlement. Remember, there's an SSDI version of this stuff too, but I'm just going to give you the SSI version so you understand the basics here. All right, definition. When an individual offers to repay the government a lesser amount than the total amount owed, if relieved of further responsibility for the remainder of the debt and the government accepts the offer. So in other words, you have to offer a less amount. They have to consider it. And if they accept it, the point of it is to relieve future responsibility so long as you abide with paying it off. Okay, policy. Act on any bona fide offer made by an overpaid individual to settle an overpayment. Preview. Instructions for development of compromise settlements offers can be found in sensitive instructions. It means there's restriction there. The chart below lists which employees can accept a compromise settlement for different overpayment amounts. Okay, so I'm about to give you the actual financial amounts that apply here related to when they're going to go ahead and potentially look at settlement options, okay? But again, the sensitive instructions of SI 02220.031, I have to look into whether or not I can share that with you. But right now we're on 02220.030. All right, so here's the deal. If the overpayment amount is $2,000 or less, a customer service representative, a teleservice center customer service representative, or claim specialist or higher can go ahead and have the authority to accept basically, a compromise settlement. Okay, so like the lowest individuals in the pile could go ahead and accept it and do it. Okay, so 2,000 or less, you can get anybody to go ahead and work a deal. Remember, if it's like less than 2,000, they'll usually waive it. Now, if it's 2,000 to 5,000 and no fraud is involved, an operations supervisor or management support specialist would have to be actually working on this. It would have to be somebody who's like, a manager at the SSA that works on this, which to me is ridiculous because, if it's like a $5,000 overpayment, like they should be, I don't know. I feel like local field office personnel should be working on that. But again, it is what it is. Now, if there is a $5,001 or 1 cent to 20,000 and the offer is at least 80% of the overpayment balance. So what they're looking for here's the important part to understand with this video. If basically they are, you are offering 80% of it, okay, 80% of it, then an OS or MSS or higher must work on it. Okay, here, I'll give you, let me give you the positions here. SSA, position, title, OS. Okay, so that would be, let's see, position title OS, operational system. No, that's not it. Hold on, let me see what we got here. We're supposed to have a OS designation chart on here. Oh, that's weird. Hold on, let me try the other one real quick. They're supposed to have that in the Google, but they don't. Hold on. Let's see what we got here. Hold on. Type of supervisory or management role within the Social Security Administration. Yeah, no, distinct from a claims representative. Again, it's just a hire manager. That's all it is. All right. So the point is this: if you offer 80% of the 5,000 to 20,000 category, then potentially they could go ahead and work a deal with you. And that's what you need to understand. They're looking for 80% for you to negotiate a settlement. Again, I'm probably going to get a call from somebody saying, hey, don't tell them about that. But 80% is what they're looking for, okay? Now, if it's $5,001 or $20,000 and the offer is less than 80% of the overpayment balance, then a assistant regional commissioner, and management operations support. So now we're getting to like some higher people here. This is an assistant regional commissioner. Okay, so now we're in the executive chart. Like we're above all the regular managers for the most part, right? The managers are all below that. So now we're like assistant regional commissioner has to go ahead and take a look at it. But again, if it's 80% of it, right, you can get a lower person to potentially snap through it and agree to it. Okay. Now, if it's 20,001 cent to $100,000, an assistant regional commissioner for management operations and systems, the ARC MOS, for referrals from the field offices, and the assistant regional commissioner for processing center operations, ARC PCO, for referrals from the PSCs. So, bottom line is you need an executive assistant regional commissioner to actually review it to see if they can work on it. But again, what they're usually looking for in these statutes is for you to offer 80%. You can offer less, but they're probably going to deny it, right? So if you're like trying to make a deal, 80% is what they're looking for. Next one. If it's more than $100,000, right? So if you've an overpayment that's over $100,000, which happens all the time, although I tend to see a lot of them because people hire me to do those like 1-hour consultations or whatever. The way it works is this, okay? The Department of Justice, again, the Department of Justice actually has to be the one that gets contacted to negotiate a deal. So where it's like outside of essentially the SSA docket at that point. So if you owe over $100,000, expect the Department of Justice to be the one to actually negotiate a compromise related to this situation when you are sued in a civil lawsuit situation or potentially a criminal lawsuit situation. Now, if fraud cases are involved in any amount, a regional office of the inspector general will have to get involved. Remember, the office of inspector general is the one that like sets up the investigators, the CDI units that follow you around, all that stuff. So those are like the managers of the investigators that go and create the report, that where they follow you around and then write up a whole report on it called an ROI. All right. Non-regional office employees in SSA do not have the authority to accept any compromise settlement of overpayments of more than $20,000. They do, however, have the authority to reject compromise settlement offers on overpayments of more than $20,000 if it is not considered to be acceptable offer, basically less than 80% of the overpayment balance in cases with no fraud, for consideration by the Assistant Regional Commissioner for Management Operations and Systems or the Assistant Regional Commissioner for Processing Center Operations. Referrals from the FO should be referred only to the ARC MOS, and referrals from the PSC should be referred only to the ARC PCO. The point that I'm getting at here is that if you want to do a settlement, they're looking for 80%. That's what they're looking for. So when they begin this, like, we're going to come after you, we're going to do this, we're going to file a civil suit, and you do, when they're hitting you with this stuff. And remember, again, I want to go back to this. There is a chunk of disabled people. It's less than I think it used to be because remember, people used to get on disability benefits like that, and the money was worth a lot more. So like they were living pretty okay on a weekly, monthly basis. Now they're not. Now it's like the money is terrible. Like you can't afford it. The dollar is devalued significantly. But there's still like that percentage of people that have that ego, or I'm gonna offer them 60%. Just be aware, right, that when you do this stuff, when you go that route, unfortunately, you're going to be getting likely a rejection. You know what I mean? You can do it. You can see if they'll take it. But you know what I mean? And remember, it's case specific. You have to look at where they might have screwed up or you might have screwed up and then, weigh and balance kind of gig. Note, once the fraud aspects are closed, i.e. there's no longer any potential for prosecution, field office employees have the authority to arrange a compromise offer for overpayments up to $20,000. So essentially, if they feel like there's no fraud potential with your claim, then a local FO person could work on it even up to $20,000. Okay. So that's kind of what you need to know. Now, here's what you also need to know. Here's how it works. General, accept a partial refund made prior to approval of the compromise offer. Provide a receipt that states that acceptance of the refund does not constitute acceptance of the compromise offer. They're still reserving time to decide if they want to do it. Explain that there may be a delay in notification of the decision in cases requiring further review. The reason for a delay is that before a compromise settlement offer can be accepted in some cases, in other words, those of over $20,000 for involving fraud, the offer may be referred to a regional attorney right, attorneys for possible legal objection if fraud is involved, or refer to the Department of Justice. Okay. Now, remember the offer. Here's what you need to know: format for a compromise settlement. Number one, it's got to be in writing. It's got to be on an SSA 795 or in a letter. 795 is like classic statement of claimant, over the signature of the overpaid individual or the representative, meaning either your attorney or you have to sign that you're going to be, making this compromise settlement. Written in the individual's own words, meaning that they expect the individual to understand what's actually going on, because we, the attorneys, write it it could be too complex, right? And they wouldn't understand it. Representative signature alone is acceptable only when, so if I, as an attorney, negotiate and agree to do one of these settlements on behalf of you, it's acceptable where I can sign on your behalf only under these circumstances. You are reasonably certain they are acting for the individual or the individual's estate, and the representative is in a position to carry out the terms of the settlement, or there is a 1696 or other proof of appointment in file. Additional guidelines on format are in GN 02215. So the point is, like, if I've got a 1696, yeah, I can sign on behalf of you. That's the best way to do it, because that's the appointment of rep form. Normally you get like a 1696, you have your fee agreement, you get a 1693. That's the usual spiel. Okay. Now, development of the compromise. All right, let's talk about FO process, the field office processing a compromise. Refer any questions of whether to accept a compromise offer to the Assistant Regional Commissioner and Management Operations Support for their opinion prior to final acceptance of the offer. So in other words, if this is something that's a little bit of money here, they're going to send it up the thing and say, hey, I have a question. Does this look okay? What do you guys think? Right? That's if they have questions. If they don't have questions, they'll stamp it, get it rolling, go from there. All right. Actions following rejection of a compromise settlement offer. So if they want us, if you, let's get an egotistical person, right? Is like, oh, I'm only going to offer 50%. I'm only going to offer 50%, right? Actions following rejection of a compromise settlement offer. Notify the individual on an SSA L8165. Notify the appropriate ARC, which is internal at the SSA. Resume normal recovery efforts against the person. Okay. Then there's further instructions inside the SI 0222.0.031. Now, when refund is not received as agreed, this is important because sometimes, again, you get these egotistical people. What happens is, in this situation, you get an egotistical person that will agree to an amount, and then they will flip the switch and basically say, I'm not agreeing to that. I'm not paying that. I have seen that a couple of times. I just want to let you guys know that if you feel like you're just going to basically lie, if you feel like you're going to lie and renege on something, please go to a map. It's just important. Go to a map, right? And then just draw for me specifically what continent the country you are a prince or princess of is in, where the specific castle is that you actually live in. Just go ahead and do that for me, because I think it'll help you understand that you are dealing with people like judges that have the capacity to literally press charges against you for things that you do in court or things that you renege on. So it's just important to just find that continent, circle that spot where your castle's at, so that everybody's aware you are royalty. That's important. It's very important. And I say this, some of you, oh, how could you be so egotistical and say that, Attorney Hnot? How could you be so mean and say that? No, you don't understand. When clients F their life over because their mom inspired them to have a stupid ego, you end up with a person now who doesn't just need a disability attorney to work on it, but they need a crim law attorney now to deal with the reneging issues that's now been sent over to the DOJ for potential review of criminal procedures against the person. And I just, look, you guys got to understand, you have to just, again, find the continent with the country in it that you are royalty of and just circle it for me. Just circle it. That way everybody's on the same boat. I love you all. But just, you know what I mean? All right, here we go. Next thing, when a refund is not received as agreed. If the refund is not received, consider reporting the overpayment claim to the Department of Justice through ARC-MOS, Management and Operations Support. Yeah, they're going to tattletale on your ass real quick, right? You're going to go right over to the Department of Justice. Department of Justice is going to begin the filing, situation against you. they're going to go right to there. You're going straight to court. No Monopoly fun game, right? You don't get to roll that spiel, all right? No rolling of the dice. If fraud is not involved, refer to the DOJ for consideration of civil suit if the amount of the overpayment is $3,000 or more. Okay, so if potential fraud, then they're gonna get you. If no potential fraud and it's over $3,000, Department of Justice civil suit. So you have potential fraud criminal suit against you, or over $3,000 you don't pay when you said you were going to pay, and now you're being referred for a civil suit against you. So my point is this: just be fair. You know what I mean? Be fair about it. Some of these overpayments I see, and I'm like, there's no way this is your fault. There's no way. And you battle it out, and you do it, and you battle it out because it makes sense. But some of them are just people like, I'm not paying nothing. I ain't paying a dime. I took that money and spent it. It's gone. Thank you, good sir. Look, you want the truth? I have a couple of people who went through that spiel. They don't live in the United States anymore. It's not because they wanted to go to jail there, or actually in that case, it might end up being prison. It's not because of that. It's because they had to flee the country. And there are literally procedures of what the SSA has to do when the person leaves the country. Yeah. Okay. So just want to make sure everybody's cool with that. Everybody's aware of that. Cyber Katie, thank you for the 4 months. Priority response. That's amazing. That's also super, super helpful. If you have any questions, please don't be afraid to shoot me an email. That's absolutely amazing. That's really, really cool. So thank you so much for all you do, Walter. Hello, everyone doing some studying. Stay safe. That's awesome. Thank you, Cyber Katie. That's super cool. I also love the little anime picture there. It's awesome. I actually really enjoy, like, I used to get to play video games. I don't get to play video games anymore, but like the graphic stuff related to, like, anime series. And like, I grew up in an era where before cell phones, this was literally before cell phones, we had these things called playing cards. And then after playing cards, we had like game cards, like Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu Yu Hakusho, Pokemon. Who doesn't like that? Actually, just so you know, Pokemon was banned at Moravian Academy in the lower school and middle school because of me. I was trading and I was purchasing a Charizard, and that little kid's parents, the little shit's parents, went and complained for how much I bought it for from him. Hey, wasn't personal. It was a Charizard. All right. Now look, bottom line is this. It was there after ban. Did I still use eBay to make money off of Pokemon cards as a kid? Yes, of course. That's how you learn how to do business. You learn through Pokemon cards. It's actually a really good thing. You have to learn the game, learn the statistics, learn the trend. It was actually a really good thing for me. I didn't see it as that at the time because I was trying to get my foils lined up. Foils are like the shiny cards. You don't care. All right. Anyways, here's the deal. All right. So if fraud's not involved, if it's more than $3,000, you're going to DOJ for a referral likely. However, do not refer death cases if there's no estate. So in other words, if they can't take a house, like if the claimant passes and the claimant didn't have a house or like a property that they can attach to, then they're probably not going to go ahead and refer because there's nothing that they can, take from you. Yay, that's a Kosherish member for 7 months. It's absolutely amazing. I got one too. Very, very cool. Kosherish does an amazing job moderating. Absolutely amazing. I super appreciate all the stuff he does. He's a good kind, and he's a neutral in the middle person with his moderating. Like if he sees like super pro left or super pro right, he keeps it neutral, which is absolutely, because I'm a registered independent. He kind of takes care of it. So I really appreciate that. A seated estate. An assisted estate is one that has been distributed to the state. Okay, that doesn't. All right, so system considerations. All right, let's go through this. Whenever recovery of an overpayment, regardless of the amount, is discontinued, the uncollected overpayment is maintained on the SSR for reevaluation of adjustment or recovery action when eligibility and payment amounts are reestablished. Make appropriate disposition input of the overpayment when eligibility and payment amounts are reestablished. Okay, so you know how like some people think that the government doesn't want access to your bank account? And they like argued against me that would be ridiculous. By the way, I haven't seen Ed Weir's response video where he was like, I'm still right, even though he's clearly wrong. The point is, literally inside this, they keep a statute that says, hey, we're going to keep checking in if you owe us money to see when we can potentially get that money. Now, how do you think they're going to do that? Well, right now, the government has access to the payroll companies, right? They set it up so that they can find out exactly what income you have going on. The government during Biden tried to go ahead and switch the outgoing and incoming payments and, basically, receipt of funds for anything that was $600 or more, which means they would know what's going on with your account for everything 600 or more. It didn't pass because the banks and like every American was like, no, 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 Biden, no, no, sir, no, no. And everybody's like, no, 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 no. So they put it at 10,000. The point I'm getting at is like the government wants access to your bank accounts. They have specific statutes where they're going to try and watch and find out when you have money so that they can take money in these types of situations. Like it just is what it is. Like it just is what it is. We got Furry Plants member for 11 months. That's awesome. Thank you for doing the membership again. I didn't realize I had one too. There you go. And Abby Normal, very cool. Member for 2 months. Very cool. Me too right there. That's awesome. Very, very cool. So Little Minnie said Pokemon was fun, like Pokemon Snap. I never got into Pokemons. I never got into like the games thereafter. Like I'm a first generation. Like I can name all 151. Okay, I can handle it. So I said 151 and not 150. All right, here we go. System considerations. Whenever recovery of an overpayment, okay, so we already went over that. All right, so that was the whole thing. That's how they do it. So the point of this video, just to summarize, is they're looking for 80% of what's due in a compromise settlement to make it go away. And you can do a payment plan gig. You can do this much down and this much thereafter. You can basically structure it in different ways that you'd like. But remember, they're not dummies. They're going to go ahead and essentially create a system that, to be fair, like just so that you kind of understand, they're going to know stuff about you. You know how like Walmart learns everything about the products that they sell so that they can make a great value version of that product and then sell you that great value version as a competing thing to the company that you would normally buy, like the label brand? Yeah, it's kind of like that. The SSA is going to have a file on you and have access to stuff about you. And they're going to be like negotiating just like they would if they were trying to figure out if you should be able to pay it. So, just remember that's the other side of it. All right. With that said, I may do another video. I may not. It depends. It's 11:48 p.m. I am super duper tired. But with that said, give me about 10, 15 minutes. I might post another one and then we'll rock and roll from there. Attorney Walter Hnot, please remember to like and subscribe. Also, please remember if you have Medicare or, you want to get Medicare and you want to get like a tune-up on your plan, free call. I partnered with them. It is, Ask Chapter, or basically their company name is Chapter. AskChapter.org/disability. Give them a call. They can go ahead and do a tune-up on your Medicare plan. And remember, you want to tell them medications, future surgeries, what's going to happen, with all the fraud that they've recently arrested, all these different, doctors and nurses. Will it affect your current plan? Anyways, give them a call. You know what I mean? It's a free thing. It's free to call. It's like 15 to 30 minutes to like do a good job and say, hey, is this the right plan for me? So, they save like on average, I think $1,100 for like the average person that they save money for a year, which, it's not bad. You know what I mean? That's $1,100 you can spend on whatever, TV, cool food, whatever. All right. So bottom line is this, please remember, I go live on Mondays and Thursdays. And also, if you want to go ahead and get like a consultation with me, bottom line is we have a mini contract below. So like, you go ahead and essentially, it's, 30 minutes is $150. And then basically a 1 hour slot is $250. But I will say this, a lot of the people who basically pay for the 30-minute, they call me and I talk to them like, okay, cool. What do you want to go over? And they're like, I want to go over this and this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, make sure you have these documents ready. And then I explain to them what the stuff we have to go over. And then most of them upgrade it to an hour because they realize like the question they have leads to all these other things that they have to strategize and plan out over a timeline. But again, do whatever you can do if you want to do it. So I will catch you a little bit later. And also, wait, right here, boop, boop, boop. This is the company right here that I've been working for 12 years, Disability Resolution. If you want to support the channel, I love waking up and seeing some stars on the Google page. disability resolution. Check it out. I'll catch you a little bit later. Have a wonderful night. Give me about 10 minutes. I'll probably do another video and we'll rock and roll from there. All right. With that said, I'm dying. Sorry. My apologies. With that said, Cyber Katie, thank you for the 4 months of prior response. It's absolutely amazing. And we'll catch up from there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody. Have fun. Bye-bye.